We're going to talk about the Batman franchise from 1989 to 1997. 4 films with 3 different actors starring as Batman. And joining me as always has got my buddy ezmaniac. Ezmaniac, what up, man? Thanks for joining. You ready to do this?
Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this one because I know these films back to front. I think I do anyway.
Yeah, I think we both do, man. We've spent long snippets of time texting each other back and forth, just the one-liners from this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just saying stupid liners and stuff like that. So back and forth. To me, this is a creed for my life, especially part one. I mean, I watched them all and they were all a part of my childhood, but especially part one. I mean, I can't even describe to you how much that movie is a part of my soul.
I'd agree with you there. I mean, I was so used to just watching the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and then when I was introduced to this, it was a whole completely different ballgame. Like same as you, it changed everything for me. I became obsessed.
Now, when you got into Batman, you say Superman first. How much longer before were you into Superman before you were into the Batman, the movies?
Remember, I grew up in Germany, so I was very limited with what I could watch on TV or anything like that. So it was a case of my dad would rent them, copy them, and then I would have them in my room. So, and then when I moved to the UK, I remember watching Batman over and over again. Like I didn't realize it was a 15. I didn't realize it. Yeah, I didn't care. I don't think anybody cared. It was kind of aimed at kids, but not at the same time.
Oh, I thought it was the perfect hybrid of being a Batman that wasn't obviously it was a comic book, but it wasn't a cartoon. I remember two movies that I truly had this feeling about, and maybe three, and I'll throw this third one in there, but two movies for sure. When I saw in the theater, I was just like, oh my God. Like I just could not contain that feeling that was inside of me because I'd loved these characters as cartoon characters / comic book characters before. And to see them on screen, one movie was Batman 1989 and the other one was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1992 or 1990.
Yeah,
Those two movies, it was they were like almost like drugs to me. Like
I'd
I
agree with that.
needed them so much. I remember when I thought Batman was coming out on video, and I lived at the video store even as a kid. My dad took me all the time. I remember thought it was coming out, and then they were like, "Oh, it's next week." I started crying. I thought the world was over. I mean, it was a bad night for me.
Well, my first experience with this film, it got me into buying action figures at a very young age. Like I remember asking my uncle to take me to Toys R Us, and it cost £2.89, and I bought Penguin, and he shouldn't have really have been in it, and I bought the Joker, and
Oh, but
then
they were
from there,
selling toys for every character. When that movie came out, every Batman villain was being sold as a toy, no matter if it was
that's
in
right,
the first film or not.
yeah. And then once I got these two, and I remember I used to attach them to my grandma's curtains, and she had these pull strings, and if you pulled one, it would raise them up, and I was like, well, I need Batman. And then once I got Batman, and he had this grappling hook on his belt, and it was just like, wow, I never stopped after that.
And your imagination just kept flowing from the movie. Like for me, the toys, what it
Yeah,
was is that I would just the scenes in the movie were tattooed in my head, and I would just do those things with the toys. And I would use parts of my house to pretend that, oh, well, this is the cathedral, and this is like I would play
yeah,
with every angle of my home with those toys, just trying to reenact that movie because I wanted that movie. Like to me, playing it all day long was fine. I could play it back to back. Not now, obviously, I've become an adult, but for the first year that movie was on video, and I owned it.
yeah.
Any free time, I was putting that movie on. You know what I mean? Like if I was playing video games, it was with my friends, and if we weren't doing that, we were watching Batman, or I was watching it by myself.
Well, I was 8 years old, and it was that and Lethal Weapon 2. I would watch
Yes,
those two films
yes, yeah,
over and over, and
and that
Karate
would
Kid, but yeah,
oh, well, of course. And but see, Karate Kid and stuff like that were things that you should like as a kid. The family went to go see that. There were parts of Batman that had Tim Burton elements that were very horrific, and we'll get to that here in a second. In fact, let's just go
yeah.
ahead and start talking about it, man.
Let's go for it.
I mean, from the moment this movie opens up, the credits, dude. It's just and then you
Well,
just see this
I
whole
rewatched it the other day, the first one, and I didn't have the opening credits because when my dad taped it, it didn't have that part. So watching that, it was like a new experience for me. I have seen it since, but I actually paid attention watching it in HD as well now. It was
so
like,
how the camera's going through the bat symbol and everything. And
yeah, I never had any of that as a child. It just started with the opening family. You know what I mean?
gotcha.
Yeah,
So was the first image you saw was this right here, huh?
that's exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that.
Which, man, the way they talked, the way they developed Gotham and the way Gotham looked was just so amazing. It just
Yeah,
had, it was nothing like I'd ever seen in a movie before. And it was nothing, well, it was from the comic books, but you'd never seen Gotham on screen. You had seen the Batman show and stuff like that. But I mean, you never even saw Gotham. It was just the city. It was a normal, regular city. And you would just see a building here and there. This was the first time you saw this Gotham as a character. You know what I mean?
I
And
agree. Yeah,
it
it's like
was,
New York gone bad. That's what it looks like to me. Like
it's
it's
spoiled.
very dirty. Yeah,
Yeah.
gritty.
Something went wrong in the process of the city and it still stayed surviving, but in a very dirty way. And I think Nolan did his good job on that as well. But let's face it, Tim Burton was the guy who introduced this shot. And remember, this is way before CG or anything like that. So these were like set paintings mixed with a set.
Yeah,
I mean, it
yeah.
was
You can
awesome.
see it, and it's beautifully done.
Yes, and to me, those paintings in the background sort of added something special that we don't have now. Like the CG and stuff, don't get me wrong, it looks great, and especially when you're doing backgrounds and stuff like that. That's kind of what it's best for, in my
Yeah,
opinion. But you gotta, there was something that felt, I don't know, more cinematic about using those painted sets, if that makes any sense.
yeah. I mean, as a child, you don't know that that's painted. You believe that's a real place.
Well, you did as an adult too, because you had, that's the best you had seen on screen at that point, because
Yeah,
everything was a movie. Now it's just like it's got to look so real, but it was okay for it looking slightly
stylistic.
fancy. Yeah, stylistic. That's the word I'm looking for. Stylistic. And this movie's full of that, man. And then right after you see that city, you see the kids walking around, and then of course they get bombarded by the two guys. And if you, like you said, you were thinking that was the origin of Batman the very first time, right?
Yeah, like I didn't understand, and then watching it again, I forgot that there was this scene which mimics how Batman, came to be. So these two goons that steal the money from him, and what is it he says? He says, "Oh, put that map away. We look like tourists."
Yeah.
Like they're so scared, they're afraid to be in Gotham.
Because Gotham is that evil character of its own. You know, it's a character of a
Yeah,
city. I
there's
remember watching this movie.
prostitutes, there's everything.
Yeah, the prostitutes hitting on the little kid. It's hilarious. Yeah. Hey, sweetheart. Um, but I remember even watching them getting lost and everything. And he like, I know where we're going. And just that dark alleyway immediately walking down it. It was scary. And then those
Yeah,
two guys, those goons are scary, dude. They're dirty. They look sick. You know, it was
yeah, they
just,
look sick. They're so pale, and they look like they've just been
mhm.
injecting something.
Their eyes are like red around the brim, you know, but they're pale everywhere else. And what's so funny is you text me, I just want to know what happened to Johnny Cobbs. He's
it
like,
took it took a walk off a window. Is that right?
and they say, relax. It's like, hey, Johnny Cobbs got ripped and took a walk off a roof, all right? And
That's.
it's like, I heard
Do
it
you want
was,
your cut of this money or not? Now shut up.
shut up.
Shut
Shut
up.
up. And he's got the cigarette flapping in his mouth. And I like, it's like,
So
I heard it was the bat, man.
looking at this movie now, like it's within 5 to 10 minutes you're introduced to Batman. Like there's no like
Right
origin
away.
story straight away. Yeah,
And it's the coolest Batman you've ever seen. You've
yeah,
yet to see a Batman that looks that badass before. Not in the comics, even though you've seen amazing artwork in the comics before. He's never looked like that.
yeah.
I mean,
It's the
that was
way like he raises his arms up, and
it,
and he's just but lets them shoot him.
oh, and and he
Yeah,
just comes back up, and you know the whole batarang thing. And that's another thing too. This Batman wasn't, and there is one fight scene that we're going to get to, but this Batman, while I do like the way Ben Affleck portrays him, it's my favorite portrayal. And I do like that approach of him being sort of ninja-esque and he'd be able to just do all these crazy moves. But this one was very like he relied on his gadgets. He wasn't necessarily that badass of a fighter. He was just smarter than everybody else. And even if you came rocking, he was just going to be one step ahead. And I like
Yeah.
that. I like that part of the character a little more than, hey, you can't take me down because I can fight like a ninja. That part's cool, but I think I like this aspect of the character a little better.
Yeah, and then he takes one of the goons and he just wants to spread the word. That's it. He doesn't even want to give the money back to the parents or anything like that. He's happy just to threaten him and says, I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you? I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Yeah,
And that's your first introduction to the character.
and what's funny is that you even saw this in the trailer. Because you see, just in the trailer, you just hear, "What are you?" And he's like, "I'm Batman," and that's like the end of the very first trailer I ever saw, and it's just as good in the movie when you see it, even though you've seen it in the trailer and you're expecting to come in the movie. The way it all comes about and happens, and he's like, "I want you to do me a favor. I want you to," and it just is so. All the dialogue is just. It's so classy and so polished. It's just top drawer, man. I mean, everything about it, but it feels like a comic book at the same time. It feels like you're reading a pulp comic.
I have a question for you. What is with the extra prongs on the Batman symbol on this costume?
It's funny you say that. I think that was just Tim Burton's way. You're talking about right here, down at the right
Yeah,
before the tail. I think that was just its way of just having something cool. I really think it's nothing more than them being in the designer deal and somebody drawing it and being like, "Oh, I think that looks really cool." Maybe just for the plate, just for
yeah,
the plate on his chest. And I
yeah. Because
really don't think
it
it's
never
any more
comes
than
back.
that. Huh?
Yeah, it never comes back in any of the others. So I was just
No,
wondering why.
it's sure it's not in returns. It's not still like
No,
that in
it's not
returns.
returns. No, he's got it normal, like the bat symbol, like on your hat.
Gotcha. I like
Yeah,
the way it looks like this, and I like it the other way. It's all fine because ultimately you know what it is. You know what you're looking at there.
yeah.
God, but I was obsessed with the bat symbol. Still am. I draw it everywhere. I can draw it really fast. It's awesome.
So can
But
I.
yeah, and it's ready to go.
Sometimes it's not very symmetrical, but I do draw it quite a lot.
I've focused more on getting it symmetrical for sure.
Yeah.
My buddy Brian says you need to take an iron to that headset cable. I can see Mario hopping up those steps to hit the flag at the end of the level. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, you're right. What's funny is I'm house sitting for my mom right now, and I brought my other headset over there to do some other work, and I had
You're using
to
a
I had to
coat
use
hanger.
this. Well, it's an old one that's been in the drawer forever, and it's been like folded up. So yeah, I will get an iron on that, Brian. Thank you. It is. I've been trying to keep it. Let me see if I can keep it behind me because it's kind of distracting. But anyways, going back to this, the bat symbol, I think it was just the choice at the time, artistic choice.
But that's good. It's good. It's like we've got this new brand and we're using the normal symbol as all the advertising, the gold, with a little light, and then you can have something different on there.
Yeah, it's no big deal. And
yeah.
Now, what do you think about Vicky Vale, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale?
As a kid, absolutely adored her. Rewatching this, she's kind of annoying but essential to the plot.
Sure. I was obsessed with her, but it was because she was in Batman, and so I'm like, ooh, Vicky Vale. And I love anytime there's a comic book name that has two of the same, V and V, Vicky Vale. Stan Lee did that with like Peter Parker, Matt Murdock, Bruce Banner. That was his deal.
The CW takes it too far with like Lois Lane's family, like Lana Lane.
Yeah,
all that.
Well, but even then, Lana
Lucy.
is Lang, Lang,
yeah.
And then Lois Lane. They should have just separated that better because they're not even connected. But anyways, I'm getting off track. But you also had another girl in here who was a famous person, was as Felicia.
Yeah.
Jerry Hall. Now this was Jack Nicholson or Jack Napier, his goon, or excuse me, his girl in this.
And Grissom's.
What'd you say?
And she's Carl Grissom's. She's, he steals her away from Carl.
Oh, Carl Grissom too. Let's talk about him. Oh, good old Carl Grissom. Now, they already got Michael Keaton play as Batman, and we all everybody was freaked out about that. I was too. I was just like, I've never thought that, because only thing I knew Michael Keaton from was the whole Beetlejuice thing.
Yeah. So it
And
was
so
comedy.
yeah, I just didn't know how is that going to work. And obviously it worked out great, but still to this day, one of the biggest payouts of all time is Jack Nicholson playing the Joker. $60 million he got paid for doing this.
Yeah, and he gets a cut of all the rest of them, doesn't he?
All the rest of the sequels or just all the
Yeah,
movies?
all the rest of the sequels. I'm sure he got something because they wanted to bring him back for Batman 5, which we'll talk about later. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure he got a
George
small
Miller.
percentage or something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, because at first he just didn't want to be associated with a comic book film because they hadn't really been done well outside of Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But you got Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, which is, Michael Keaton's up and coming, but Jack Nicholson was already legend at this point. But then you get like Jack Palance, who's up there with like John Wayne and stuff. And dude, just you are my number one a guy. The fact that that comes back later on with him and Bob is just hilarious, which I don't have any pictures of Bob. Dang it.
what? You got no pictures of Bob with a
I
kick in
know.
action?
I just realized it, dude. I just realized it. I'm sorry. It was so hard to all the pictures I wanted to get,
You know
but
something I noticed with this, rewatching this, is that he's already got the Joker in him. Like he's laughing very sinister when he's talking to Eckhart down the alleyway.
oh, let's talk about Eckhart, dude. That dude is priceless. What a scumbag. I mean, you couldn't
Yeah,
have got a better scumbag to be in this character.
even Commissioner Gordon, when he's at Bruce Wayne's party, says like, "Who's in charge of this?" And it's Eckhart, sir. And he's like, "Oh
I
no,
should have known.
yeah,
It's got Eckhart sir all over it. And also too, when he walks up to Jack Nicholson and they're talking about, he's like, got your little snack, Eckhart. And he
yeah." And
pulls
he's like,
open
"Don't
that
do this down here."
sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but he
just
just
remember
doesn't care. I think Jack Napier, it just doesn't seem to care. His ego is so up here, and I think that's ultimately his demise and why he becomes the Joker.
yeah, but well, and also too, because he got ratted out by Grissom. Grissom
Well,
told
he shouldn't
Eckhart.
be knocking off his girl.
That's right, man. You got to, and he's like, don't forget your lucky deck. Uh, but
As if you wouldn't think like this seems a little bit too suspicious to me.
right, like you're Jack Napier. Why don't you not notice something? But I love it when he finally gets Eckhart and they're talking and everything, and Eckhart's talking to him, and he says, "You need to think about the future." And he says, "Oh, with the way you running this show, you ain't got no future, Jack. With you an A1 nut boy over here." And the way he just says A1 nut boy, and he says, "Yeah," I mean, that's such juicy dialogue, and the way it's delivered. I mean, it's straight out of a like crime noir film. You ain't got no
Yeah,
future, Jack.
yeah,
It's
you're
great.
right. Like 1930s or 19, yeah, you're right. I agree
And
with
it
that. Like
it
it's
all just
very
feels so
styled like
good.
that.
Oh man, it feels so good. It almost feels like it's in another time. It doesn't feel like it's necessarily in 1989 outside of some of the clothes that they're wearing. But
Right. Robert Wall's character, bring him on. I want to see a picture of him.
oh man. They I like it when he says he's like, yeah, yeah, six is good. He says to open champagne.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the way he's been so like like cloak and dagger, Bruce Wayne, like not answering to when she said, "Oh, where's Bruce Wayne?" It's like he wants to suss them out first.
Yeah, well, and he wants to at first when I was a little kid, I was like, is he being starstruck by Vicky Vale? And I think that that's the way he wants to come off in front of her. But
Yeah.
obviously the whole time he knows something's going on. And then, they cut to this right here pretty quickly when he leaves. And Commissioner Gordon, like he's like, Commissioner Gordon, or no, Alfred's Commissioner Gordon's getting compelled to leave. And he's like,
I know. And
okay.
then and what's he called again? Robert Wall's character?
Knox.
Knox. When Knox
Alexander
says, "Oh,
Knox.
can I get a grant?" And then he's like, "Oh, and make sure get Knox a
Give Knox a
grant."
grant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being
And I'm
just a
thinking,
smart ass.
is he being fake there? Like he's not that stupid. Like awkward.
No, I think he's just trying to throw him off because then right after that's when he's just like, look at this mirror. You know why they're so weird? Because they can afford to be. He's like, maybe
Yeah,
they should be called Bruce Vane. And I mean, so I think he plays it off perfectly well for them to not even suspect. One, at this point, nobody knows that the Batman's real. It's just this myth deal. But immediately you see him back here like this. And then, of course, we go to the whole Access Chemicals scene where they're going out there. We've been ratted out, boys.
yeah,
And then we get to see Batman just coming down. That scene right there, when because they bust in, they've been ratted out by Grissom and Eckhart. Eckhart's there to set them all up, and then it's going to be Grissom, Commissioner Gordon coming in too. So it's like 5 teams basically, including Batman.
yeah. And it's like quite a complicated scene because one minute he's fighting with somebody, and then you've got somebody who's going to shoot Eckhart, and like there's a lot going on in this. Where the stakes are high. Someone's got a gun to somebody's head. You know what I mean? And
Oh
like
yeah.
Batman, that in a way, it's like Batman gets lost in all that.
Well,
Just in that scene, as in like they're looking up at him, but they don't really know what's going on.
and I think it's because he realized right here that this is the guy that killed his parents, right?
I see. I don't think the penny's dropped there yet.
Oh, you're
It's
right.
le-
You're right.
it's
You're
later
right.
on he thinks that.
He's later on when he's starting to think it when you see the flashback itself and he's thinking it in the Batcave by himself. You're right.
Yeah,
But
because he says the one line, which I can't remember,
Pale
and I
Moonlight.
should.
Yeah,
Eh?
the have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, before this whole time, you see in him Jack Nicholson, and he's just looking like Jack Nicholson, looking like you've always seen him. And then
Yeah.
obviously he drops him in the vat and he comes back out as this guy. And you don't see him yet, but you hear or you see his fingernails, and then you hear him when he's getting worked on. When the guy's like, nuts have been
I was going to talk about this.
severed.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this scene. So you see his hand come up in a vat like that, and obviously
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
all
black and white.
clawed and it's got the yeah, it's all white. And
Why have they not tried to retrieve his body? Like they're all there, all the police are there. Well, I don't understand.
yeah, I
Does he
mean,
get washed out?
I think it shows because remember it shows that big old thing that it shows the vat, and then it shows later like all those different things. It's like the water flowing out of all these
Right.
different
Okay.
drains, and I think he's just
Right.
coming up out of there. Which, by the way, man, all that the setting for that where they're fighting, and Batman does the, and then
Yeah.
and then he shoots the guy and hangs him by the tooth. It looks like let me down, let me down.
It's just swinging.
Yeah. I remember loving that as a kid. And then just the looks that Batman's given the whole time. He's just a badass, dude.
That
Oh, and
suit,
then
the lighting, everything's perfect on that.
it's beautiful, man. And Jack Nicholson, when he holds him up and he's, Jesus. I love that. And then he's just like, nice outfit. And then he's gone.
Yeah.
And then
And
that's
then
when
he
he
comes
shoots
back way too
Eckhart.
late.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and he's gone. Yeah. But then think about the future. Beautiful. And Eckhart falls down in the steam. But then quickly, Nicholson's back, but he looks a little different.
Oh, he does.
And he's having that meeting, and when he wipes it off, when he wipes the makeup off there, and he's just like, I'm a lot happier.
It's just crazy in this scene, and the fear that they all feel. Like you
I
can
was
see all
afraid
the,
of him. Like I was
yeah, all the
starting to
mob
get
bosses.
little uncomfortable as a kid watching the scene.
Yeah. And I think especially when he puts on like the skin makeup over the top of his white makeup, like, and he's just got the grin, and what's with that hideous grin or whatever it says.
Life's been good to me.
Yeah. It's just it's eerie.
Very eerie. Very
Yeah.
eerie. So we got somebody checking it out, said nice impression, and they said that they're at work now, but looking forward to listening to this while he draws later. Hey, thanks. I think it's Bijalou. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. But anyways, so after he starts getting into burning this guy to death, where it's a little scary, then you start seeing him take over the city, and he's having a lot of fun with some people. Love that Joker, and he's making Smilex poison.
Yeah, and it's already in all the products that they've bought.
Oh, it's great. And that was another thing too, because he's like sort of just giving a FU to everybody on the screen. He's being like, but it's like it's a commercial and everybody, oh, what's this new product? And they're, what is this? And then it's sort of like him being like, you just got screwed by me. I mean,
Yeah,
that's so awesome Joker move. You know what I mean?
yeah. He's like, you probably bought it already.
Yeah. And chances are you bought it already. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, amazing, amazingly scary. Like
And
if
he's
there's
like,
somebody did that in reality, like
oh,
that's
dude,
scary.
that's really scary. It truly is. And that's why I think that this one in Ledger, like, is creepy and messed up as Ledger's Joker's portrayal was, and sadistic and sort of mental patient-ish. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Jack Nicholson's Joker still challenges him as just far as how evil and jacked up some of the things he does are in this. You know what I mean?
he does it with class.
He's about to kill a kid. He's about to kill Bruce Wayne. And then finally Bob's like, man, let's go. And he's like,
Yeah,
see you
he
around,
was going to
kid.
do it.
He was going to do it. So it's just like there are levels of Jack Nicholson's that might be the most sadistic portrayal of the Joker still, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The Smilex thing. So the news reporters, they start not wearing makeup to work.
Yeah, that's classic. I don't have a picture of it. Shit, but yeah, that is so the guy is looking pretty bad, but then the girl's looking really rough. And I remember
Yeah,
everybody in the
but they
theater
still go on
laughing. Oh, they're
there.
just still. And what's so funny is just like, did they just how bad they look without the makeup? You know, like
Yeah.
one of them, she's got like this huge. It was just it was
As if
really
to say,
funny.
like, women need makeup.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a, but I also found it to be a comic relief moment because everybody in the theater was laughing. I remember
Yeah.
that.
You remember that? Wow.
And it was definitely, dude, this movie was huge to me. I saw all the Batman movies in the theater 3 times. I mean, all of them, including, except for Justice League. but I definitely saw him a bunch in the theater. And so I mean, and I've seen him so much, but it made such an impression on me that I remember so many moments of that because I was still kind of like, at this point, the Joker was freaking me out a little bit, like in the museum and everything. And like, it was,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes.
oh, dude, so good. And when he turns around and he's laughing, just that, the, the pure, just nasty laugh that, I mean, and it's only the laugh that Jack Nicholson can do. You
I
know,
mean, you
Heath
imagine
Ledger,
if she didn't put that mask on right now. You know, when he says, "Put this on right now."
yeah, because everybody starts falling over really quickly.
Yeah,
It
that
was,
whole scene would have been like, "Oh shit, what have we done?"
yeah, no, it was like, oh, but what's so great is that if that would have happened, I'd like to think that Jack Nicholson's character would have just still been like, he might have been like sad, but in a comedic sad way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, "Ooh, you know, you might try me for a weep." But
Well, he still had Alicia at this point.
oh, and that's what I love it was when he brings her in there and he's just like, "Oh, I'm in trouble now." He's
She
like, "I'm
just
no
seems so
Picasso, but
dumbed
do you
down.
like it?"
I believe that he's probably given her some chemicals or something to dumb her down.
Oh yeah, he's messing with other people's chemicals because you know they'll go crazy and laugh themselves to death. And I'm
Yeah,
sure he did some other thing just to make her his little pawn, and also put the little acid on her face. And that's another thing that's sadistic, dude. It's the idea of him making art with someone's skin, you know,
yeah.
and
It's
him
like
calling it
I own
art.
you. Yeah. By
And
this
what
point,
is
he's absolutely lost everything. I mean, like all them photographs where he's cutting them up, you know, with Vicky Vale, like he wants her bad.
yeah, and again, why does he want her? Does he want to do the same thing to her? I mean, that's like serial killer. I mean, that's just really jacked up.
Yeah,
And then but once he gets her, and another scene that we see in the trailer is the where does he get those wonderful toys? I mean,
yeah,
dude, that I literally was it was I could barely stay in my seat when I was watching this as a kid in the theater. I mean, I was just so pumped up. I couldn't believe I was watching this. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I mean, he has to. He gets that out, and it's the double like grappling hook that
He
penetrates
goes like,
both walls.
oh, and it goes behind him, and it's just like, dude, what is this? Is and then of course, where does he get those wonderful toys?
It almost feels like Joker's in awe of him.
He because he's crazy and he slightly thinks like a child now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's
yeah,
part of what the Joker is too, that he doesn't want to he wants to do sadistic things that have adult consequences, but his reasoning and like his curiosity is all childlike. And that's
yeah.
again
And
terrifying.
it seems like, yeah, it also seems like he's bored, as in like the Joker's bored, and he's found this guy that is like, whoa, someone like me, someone who's a bit eccentric, someone interesting.
Yeah. And again, I think one of the things that Burton and Nolan both understood about the character is that part of his whole entire existence and purpose for existence is to mess with Batman.
Yeah,
And he
Ledger
loves
says
it.
it perfectly.
You complete me. I mean, yeah, that was beautiful too. And just goes to so much of why when I saw this movie, Batman was already my favorite character, but I had definitely not dug into comic book characters yet. I was too young. I mean, I didn't really know. I'd seen the Punisher, that guy with the skull in his chest, but I wasn't reading it. Didn't have the appeal
Yeah,
because he didn't have a cape and stuff like that. But after this movie, man, Batman just became, I mean, and still to this day, I think he is the best character almost to ever be written as far as the stories can keep being told because of how much you care about what's happened to this kid as a child and just you believe in his purpose. You know, it's the same reason you believe in, someone that it makes it all and then from the military all the way up to general because they have this purpose that they want to make the world a better place. And that's what Batman is. He's his own
he's a
general.
human being, and he doesn't have any powers as well. That's what creates. You can create so many stories with that.
Definitely.
Mm.
Definitely. And, that's when people ask me,
Sort
who,
this kind. Sorry,
who would you be? They're like, who would you be on as a superhero? And always I'm like, well, I would be Superman. And they're like, I thought Batman's your favorite. I'm like, hey, he's my favorite to read. But
yeah,
if I'm gonna be a superhero, I'm gonna be Superman. I mean, come on,
yeah,
he's pretty
exactly.
much.
Yeah, yeah, and who else is like that? I mean, there's other people like that. I mean, Black Widow, but
Well, Punisher's another one that has a deep story that he can get hurt, he can do all that stuff. But I mean, watching his kids die in front of him, it's the reverse Batman. Batman watched his parents die, Punisher watches his kid and his
yeah,
wife die. Anyways, yes, and I like the fact that they kind of focus on them being a love interest in this a little bit, but the fact that Batman, even though he wants it, he just ain't got time for it. Even though he wants to
yeah,
try, he just doesn't have time for it. But he's like, I'll help you in this way. And just dude, look at the imagery right there, man. I mean, that yes, they've moved on from the Batman suit and it needs to be different so he can move around and practical. But as far as just picture perfect, that is some of the best ever right there, man.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't look stupid.
No, it
Like
looks
you don't look at that and think that looks ridiculous. Like an adult could look at that and go, I can believe in that.
yeah. I mean, it seriously, like I said, you couldn't move in it and all that stuff, but it's still just picture perfect wise. It looked amazing. And then of course, one of the coolest cars of
Yes.
all time, the Batmobile, which up to this point, the coolest Batmobile that people had seen was based on a 55 Bel Air or something.
Yeah, I mean, what a brave move with this car.
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's just perfect. That bit at the front, like, what even is that? Who cares? It just
It's
looks amazing.
timeless. Everything about it is awesome. And it took so many elements from what you had seen in the comic books and then turned it into something that wasn't in the comic books because it applied it to a real life car situation. And the fact this thing was drivable, and obviously it couldn't do what it did on the screen, but
No.
still, it still could drive forward, and you're right, the little peg in the front. And then don't forget, we get the whole shield scene.
Yeah, is that the first like CGI in Batman?
Yeah, but even then, I'm not sure if that was CGI. I think that was some of that layering that they would do.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Animation.
Yeah, it was animation that they layered on top of it. I really don't think CGI existed at this point. And if it did, it was on such small,
Yeah,
scale.
like
But
in Abyss and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
right. But this man, when he's just like, stop. Dude,
That's confidence.
that was the coolest dude on the planet at that point to me. I was just like, oh my God. Not only is his car the coolest car, but he has these shields that he tells it to do by a remote, and then he lets it drives itself and then he just says stop when it's like a centimeter away from him. It's just beautiful, man. He's
He
upping
trusts in his brakes.
because he's Batman and he's got the coolest gadgets of all time, and he's just like, this is my shit. This is what I do. So I'm gonna do it. And then he's got her, which this is a great. I think he weighed a little more than 108.
This is a
Classic
great
line.
scene. It's where they shoot him down, isn't it?
Yeah, so he lifts her up there and breaks her up, brings her up to the rafters, and that's where she starts taking some pictures. And that's where they shoot him, and he's all down. And it's like, hey, it's some kind of buddy on. And
Yeah,
then
exactly. Perfect, like a comic. The way they
yeah,
speak
that's
and
what I'm
everything.
saying.
Yeah.
It's very film noir. Yeah, and then or crime noir. And then, dude, once he gets up and starts knocking her around, it's like, oh, cool, he just beat all our asses. And this homeboy jumps out. And
Yeah.
if I wasn't already just literally freaking out in joy and not able to contain myself, when this happened, I was just like, what? It was so badass.
Yeah, he's got his little shield things here and he's like fighting with them.
It's like, what is he not ready for? At this point, you're buying it too. You're just like, all right, man, like what else is they've shot him, that doesn't work. This dude comes out and then Batman's like, oh yeah, I'm also trained in your kind of shit too. I mean, it blew me away how amazing it was. And then takes her in the car. Awesome moment right there. She tries to get close to him. He turns on the light.
I like that.
And then this, dude. I mean, it just keeps taking the imagery to the next level. For a 1989 movie, this was amazing. And that's a little remote control car.
Yeah, but it's like the trees, everything about it. It's just got such like Tim Burton-esque. But
and the music at that point. And
then you see, did like bats come out, or like the door opens?
Well, they're about to hit that wall, and you realize that it raises up because they go through it. She looks behind, which, by the way, how did she look behind them?
I don't know.
Then the wall, she sees the wall go down, really badass. But then, then they pull into this, and he's just like,
oh, look at that. That's perfect.
Oh, dude. It feels like a cave. It feels mysterious. It feels like somewhere Batman would chill out. And it didn't really explain techie stuff because nobody cared then when you were watching the movie. Yeah. Nobody had iPhones. If they told you this is how it worked, you bought it. And that was what's so cool about this movie. And it still holds up that way because Tim Burton was really smart to not, like, if you notice, when anybody's using phones, it's a really cool looking home phone that looks like that could be something that somebody holds on to for nostalgic, stylish reasons in their apartment. Or it was the mayor answering the phone in his office, which everybody still has phones like that. But he was really quick to not date it with 80s stuff. You know what I mean?
I'd agree with that. I think the only thing that dates this film is maybe Prince.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was going to say is that, and you don't realize it until you buy the Prince soundtrack, how much of Prince music is littered throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Like from the very first scene when they're in the city, they're playing the Future
song. You hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you bought the soundtrack to rewatch the movie, and it's like, damn, he's all over this. I don't mind that because it's sort of part of the zeitgeist of this film, but it is the one thing that dates the film, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah.
And I'm going to try to move some more of these because we're almost done talking about the first one because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the fourth one.
I'm looking at the clock and it's like, what?
Yeah. But just when he gets in there and he does this whole thing and he's talking to him and he's just like, he's going to see Vicky after, he's got her in the Batcave and all that. And remember, she's about to like come and talk to him, and then he puts his cape in front of her. And next thing you know, she wakes up in her bed.
Yeah.
And then he's knocking on her door. But when the Joker busts in, dude, one of the greatest scenes when it's just like, now you want to get nuts? Come on.
This scene doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as in, what is Bruce going to do? He knows he's going to shoot him because we know what happens, and he puts the silver platter under his shirt. But why did he come out and do this? Like, it's like he's almost saying, I'm Batman, but not. Does that make any sense? Because he starts telling them the story.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'd have to think about that a little more. I know that the one thing is that I feel like that he puts some sort of a damper on Jack Nicholson being able to take Vicky Vale, or Joker being able to take Vicky Vale, because Bruce Wayne is a popular figure. And
Right.
so, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it was just, at least he knew it prevented Joker walking away from it with Vicky Vale. Now that he stepped into the game, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to just back out of the situation and leave you here with your box of dead flowers, you know?
Yeah, I love the scene, but it's just so like out of character. Like, I wonder what Vicky must have been thinking.
Yeah. And at that point, it pretty much takes off from there. Like
Yeah.
they don't see each other again until it's starting, shit's hitting the fan. And then, you know, he throws the parade. He asks Batman to meet him mano a
Oh, what a scene.
mano. This scene,
Yeah.
dude. And again, more Prince music. And what are they looking at up there in the sky? Oh,
The
dude.
Batwing.
When I saw this again, I'd already shit my pants like 10 times watching this movie. And it's just like, more? You're giving me more? Like, again, Superman didn't have all these hits like this. Superman was cool and it was awesome. The
Yeah.
first Superman was great for what it was. But as far as just giving you so much that you had never seen on the screen before, this was amazing.
I think the fact that it's shaped perfectly like the symbol, it's brilliant.
And then they do this right here. He flies
Yeah.
up in front of the moon again. Just Tim Burton. That's a true artist directing this film. And then Batman again, just being so cinematically, just every position he's in just looks amazing. The lighting's awesome in there in this cathedral. They have that huge fight scene. I mean,
What
it's
about
just
Joker's one bullet taking down the Batwing though? Can we discuss that, or we need to move on? I understand, but it's,
no,
it's like,
but it's part of it. Yeah. So he has the one big gun, and also Batman misses.
with all his targeting, and it, like maybe he
Yeah.
didn't focus too much on the Batwing, more on the Batmobile.
One little thing that they should have just maybe, I don't know, made a little better. If Joker would have like had something to where he like pressed the button and like some things raised up or something, you know, like something
Yeah, or like
comical,
some flares or something that got rid of the
something that
missiles.
did something, yeah. But yeah, the way, and then his one, what is that, a pistol rifle?
I have
A
no
hand
idea. I
rifle?
mean, just because you've got the longer part doesn't mean that it's going to cause any more damage, does it?
No, not at all. Now, the only reason you would have the longer part would be because if there was more of a chamber that actually had a different style of a hammer and all that, that could access a bigger bullet. But, you know, a gun that's this big at the handle is only going to be so powerful, you know?
Yeah.
It was comical and all, and then he's got the, you know, the bang, and he's like Beauty and the Beast. If anyone else calls you that, I'll rip their lungs out.
Just absolutely destroys Bob. Like, just kills him.
Just kills him. And even as a kid, I was like, oh, not Bob. And
That's scary. I mean, like, if you can kill your own like best friend, and all the staff, like his staff, all his goons are just basically like, anyway, come on, get out of here.
Yeah, let's move it. Bah! Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I just couldn't believe that happened. And again, made the Joker more of, at first Joker was Cesar Romero to me. And then he was like, oh, he's this crazy madman that really is. And then I started reading the Joker a totally different way in the comics because of Jack Nicholson. You know what I mean? But overall, you know, we could talk about this movie all day. This is one of the best Batman movies. It's definitely in the top 3 Batman movies of all time, in my opinion. It's just, they nailed it. Yeah, they took some liberties here and there. Like in the comics, the Joker doesn't kill his parents, but that worked fine for Tim Burton's movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think they realized how much of a big franchise this was going to be.
I think that there's a couple of people that wanted it to be that big, but I don't think that they realized how crazy it was going to be. I mean, this was the second round of Batmania. Batmania first started in the 60s when the show came out. And then when this movie came out, I mean, it took Batman to the next level, no question.
Yeah, the year of the sequels, and this one absolutely blew it away, didn't it?
This one, this was the number 1 that year of 89. And 2 things I want to show you before we move on to returns, but man, look at that
That's
poster.
a good shot.
Yeah,
that's good. Is that fan art?
Yeah, that's some fan art I found earlier. I just wanted to show that while we were wrapping it up, and I also wanted to show this is a pretty cool little behind the scenes picture. Tim Burton directing them. They've got their little coffee cups that they're drinking out of. Just sweet.
See, I believe that Jack Nicholson at this point probably thought, "What the hell are we making?"
I think that he had to at least know that something was a big deal because of how big the sets were, because this movie, they spent a lot of money on this movie. So I think he knew that it was at least going to be successful in some right, but I don't think that he realized how good of a film it was going to be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um,
yeah,
but one thing I want to show before moving to Batman Returns, because it's kind of cool of Tim's way of wrapping up both of his movies, is this. This is the very last scene you see in the film when it's going up and showing Batman because they're like, he gave us the signal. And, you know,
yeah. Very silly, but very
very
good.
silly, but still fun. It was for the fans. You know, you
Yeah,
needed it. If you're gonna have a Batman movie, you got to put the bat signal in there somehow. Um, and it was a beautiful way, and that was the last thing you saw in the movie. And what's really cool is at the end of Batman Returns, he does the same little thing with Catwoman.
yeah.
Um, which let's talk about it. Batman Returns, man. Now,
Right. I like
very
this. I like this one less than the first
oh
one.
me
But
now.
at the
This was a
time,
great sequel, but not as
yeah,
good.
yeah. At the time, being a kid, and I can't remember how old I was, 10 when this one came out. I went to see this one in the theaters, and I remember falling in love again with Batman, and everything that I didn't really like from the first one, it seemed to have. It had more of the Batmobile. Um, his costume had fixed the prongs because the prongs used to bother me as a kid. The suit, looking now, I still prefer the first film, but at the time, I thought this is great. The second one.
Well,
Do
it was
you know
just an
what I mean?
upgrade.
Yeah, Danny DeVito as the villain was a bit weaker, um, and that's what you. There's too much of him, I think, in this film.
Well, to me, I thought I was kind of like you when I first saw it. I was like, oh my god, because it was a different style of Batman that you didn't see in the first one. It was darker, it was gothicer, it just was more fairy tales, more Tim Burton ish. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah,
more
it
of a
looked
Tim
more
Burton
like
film.
it would look more like he was on a set than in an actual film,
Yeah, it was
if
like
that
the
makes any
Batman
sense.
Before Christmas.
Yeah, like I didn't believe the world he'd created in this one, or I don't
No,
now.
well, it doesn't look like the same Gotham. It looks like a
No, it
different
doesn't.
Gotham.
Yeah,
The first one was slimy and grimy, and this one is like black and wintry and gothic. It
yeah,
just didn't look the same. Um,
yeah.
Now I do like Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I thought that was a perfect fit. Danny
Superb.
DeVito was good as the Penguin, and then Max Schreck. Nobody even knew who he was if you weren't a really big comic book reader. But the Penguin was not the Penguin. I'm sorry. That was my
Yeah,
least favorite part about the movie is Danny DeVito's Penguin. Not his performance, but the choice they went for the depiction of the Penguin.
I agree, and I think the movie suffered because of it. And just because he's called a penguin doesn't mean that he can't act like what we know as the penguin, which is like a mobster.
That's
Like
all
you
he
don't need to
is.
give him flippers.
And make him eat raw fish and stuff and penguin of the sewers and
You're being raised by penguins. Like as an adult, taking your kids to see that, it must have been such a downer from watching the first one, which was a beautiful film.
yeah, I
You
don't
know,
really understand what he was doing with it. I mean, I know that they gave him more creative freedom with it, with
yeah.
Batman
Well,
Returns.
sometimes he just needs to be reined in a little bit.
I
I
think that
think Tim
that's
Burton, because his mind wandered off, and I think ultimately that's why they got rid of him because of all the toys that they couldn't sell.
for sure, yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
he was a producer of Batman Forever, but he wasn't a director. He's still a producer.
yeah. I
Um,
reckon it's more just a case of putting his name on there. But
I think it was part of his contract
yeah, but
that
let's
they
not
made
take
it.
away the good things about this film. There
No,
was
and
so many good things.
it is a great movie. Like I said, Christopher Walken, come on, it's priceless. You know, it's going to
Yeah,
be
he's
Christmas
evil.
more than expensive bottles.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic in everything he's in, but I like Michelle Pfeiffer, and I like how they tried to like make her look ugly right here.
Yep.
It's
I
like
like the way she,
unsuccessful. She's still hot.
yeah, and she's so dorky and she calls herself a corn dog. And why she still works for Max Shrek after he's pushed her from the window, I have no idea. But
Well,
I think
because I
her
think that,
introduction of her character is really good.
yeah, no, it is, and that's another thing that was a little wacky with this is that well, first off, she goes from this to this, but in the comic books, that's not something that happens. In the comic books, she is this. She just finally unleashes it. This thing right here happening with the cats biting her and all that, that's Catwoman is just like the Penguin in the comic books as far as she's a human being. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't agree with that part, but her making of the costume, I love that.
Oh, that
Like, I
was
like
cool.
the way you can see the stitches. It's not perfect like you would expect.
Yeah. No, I think she looks fantastic. I think that that's awesome. I just don't like the fact that she was part cat,
Yeah, revived by cats, and that it's
but then she had 9
supernatural's
lives or
being brought into
whatever.
Batman.
What'd you say?
Yeah, the fact that they're adding like supernatural stuff into a Batman film, the sequel to a film that was very raw and gritty, it's like what?
Yeah, and it just definitely was. I don't know. It could have been better as far as
Yeah,
that origin in there. I feel like because this one only came out 2 years after the other one, or did it come out 3 years?
3 years.
So, well, I mean, that's a significant amount of time. I don't know. I just don't think that I personally don't think they had a good enough story with Penguin trying to steal the kids and all that stuff. And
Yeah, they didn't. It's like they not watched the first one and thought, how can we top this? They just put a story out there.
yeah, I mean, I just don't. I think you could have had a better story if you just would have kept it with Catwoman. And this was another thing that they just tried to up the villains. But like, what if it would have been a story about some crime, and Catwoman would have been a part of the crime? They could have incorporated the Falcone family a little bit,
Yeah,
and made the story more of a love story between him and Catwoman, which it is still a love story at moments.
I
And
want more of them two. Like their scenes together are great.
Well, Selena Kyle is really, really Bruce's only real love interest in the comics. I mean, he's tampered with some people. Him and Vicky Vale, that was a dating thing here and there. But the only person he's really, really ever cared for in the comics has been Selena.
Was Elle McPherson's character?
Man, what a bad one right there. But I
Yeah,
mean, I liked a lot of elements of this movie, and I liked
I love
visually.
that it's set at Christmas. I love that.
I love the snow. I love all that stuff. Visually, it's got a lot of amazing stuff. You know what I mean? Like Batman, we were talking about the suit. I mean,
Yeah,
cinematically, if you turn this off and turn the other one off, or excuse me, turn the sound off on this one, turn the sound off on the other one, you might enjoy looking at this one in certain parts a little better.
yeah.
But as a pace and as an interesting plot and performance wise, it just doesn't quite hold up to the first one. Just
No, I
doesn't.
agree with that. I agree with that. It's still a good movie, but not brilliant.
I'd say that Batman is an A plus. I'd say that this one is a solid B. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
even give it.
yeah, that's fair.
There's some moments you can tell there's like that's a beautiful shot right there, dude.
Yeah,
But there's moments that are cool in this. Like all these cinematic moments where she's licking it up his nose and stuff. The mistletoe can be,
deadly when you
deadly.
eat it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even deadlier if you mean it. And then all this stuff, close up shots. I mean, it was all beautiful. You can tell that they were spending more time artistically trying to make the movie have more of that. Penguin's lair. I mean, it looked really cool, but it's like the penguin doesn't live in an igloo. I mean, come on.
it just. I didn't buy that story that he would become the mayor. Like, come on, like.
And people would vote for a dude that just ate a bunch of fish in front of a bunch of people and bit a dude's nose off in front of a bunch of people. It's like, come on. All because he's
Yeah,
trying to reclaim his birthright. Max Shrek wants to get some money off of it. It's just an uninteresting plot.
yeah. And it suffers, and the vehicle they introduced, that bat ski thing that goes through the sewers, it's a bit underwhelming. There you go.
Believe
Like
it or
it's
not, this was the best picture I could find of it.
yeah, I've tried to look for that because I've tried to make videos with it myself, doing my mashup videos. I just it was brilliant at the time for my
That was to
age.
sell toys, straight up.
Yeah, yeah,
Now this was cool. The Bat Missile, that was a cool
yes,
scene. I liked
yeah,
that.
that's really good.
But that incorporated into an interesting part of the movie where his car's being taken over and he's having to figure out, and you're like, oh, and you got, Penguin, I like this city, and like that whole thing, and he's riding the fake, it's all
Big
funny,
Batmobile.
whatever it is
Yeah,
that he had special made for himself. Uh, and oh yeah, I played this city like a harp from hell, and
and then
you know,
he's
me
mixing the CD.
the CD because that's how CDs work.
But yeah,
um,
any scene with Alfred, fantastic. Love Alfred.
I love Alfred in this one and the second one, or this one and the first one. I didn't have any pictures from him in this. Sorry. There's even some comical stuff where he's talking about. He's like, "Oh, really? Well, I'm not the one who let Vicky in the Batcave. just sitting there doing some work, and I turn around, oh hey Vic, come on in. Like that. That whole scene's really funny.
Yeah, it does.
And the fact that they reference her is cool.
Yeah, it was needed. It was just to say, like, he's moved on now. Like,
Exactly.
this is continuity.
Now, then you get to the very ending scene where you have the controlled penguins, the penguins in yeah, it just started getting a little it to me, that screams guys in the writing room with complete writer's block. And they're like, well, how about this? It
I,
shouldn't be like that when you're writing a movie. It should be like, I got it. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's just controlling penguins. Like, why not sell that technology you've got there? What and go and sell it and make a business from it? What the hell?
But we also live in a world where we got all these goons running around dressed as circus acts, and they're blowing fires on Toy Story. And you know what I mean? It's just it got a little too out of hand, I feel like, in the fairy tale gothic department.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah,
but you still got great scenes like this at the end when they finally meet up, and it starts to get a little more dramatic, a little horror-esque, and she starts to become a little scary herself, and
yeah.
then you start realizing that maybe she does want to kill this dude. And like it's not necessarily the Catwoman that I know from the comics, but it takes her to a different place that I really liked. And I think Michelle Pfeiffer did it well in the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she's torn. She wants to be a good person.
Right.
You know that. You can feel that from her. But she's so racked with revenge for what he's done to her.
And
I understand it. And so does Bruce. Bruce understands it. He's like, come on, let's go back. We can go back
yeah,
to my
look, he
house.
takes his mask off and all of a sudden his eye makeup's gone. I mean, look.
Yeah, that bothered
But
me as a kid.
it did me too. But I do like the emotionality of this scene. I think it starts to work and everything. And then she
Why are
fries
you
him back.
dressed like Bruce Wayne?
Yeah. Why you dressed like Bruce Wayne? Yeah, just so stupid, hilarious, but a perfect line for Max Schreck. But then
Yeah.
she fries him, and it's like that freaked me out even as a kid again. And then 2 years, 3 years later from the first one, I was still like, ooh, it's a little scary.
Like I said to you before, Bobby, I watched this film all the way through Christmas of 1992. It was my favorite present. I didn't care for any of the toys. It was watch this, watch this, watch this. So it worked for me as a kid,
Oh,
but just as an adult.
and it still works for me today. I still adore the movie. I own it on Blu-ray. I still pop it in all the time. I was watching it the other day, but it's definitely, I'd have to say that I enjoy Batman Forever a little more than this one.
So do I. I
Hey,
don't know
there we go.
why. I don't
Now
know why.
just a little more. Now just a little
Yeah.
more. Now here, look, let me ask you this, and you totally be cool with me. Do you want to
Yeah.
stage a part 2 for this for next Saturday?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing
I think
because
it'll be
I
good.
want to talk about. Yeah, I love Batman Forever. I don't love Batman Returns, but I want to talk about it because I want to talk about what it did to me as a
You mean
child and
Batman and
what.
Robin?
But yeah, sorry, Batman and Robin. That's how angry I am. I can't remember the name of it.
No, we definitely need to spend time talking about Batman and Robin just because of the absurdity of it all. I mean, it's like the Fast and the Furious of the Batman films.
Yeah, we'll save it.
Cool.
I'll
I'm glad.
stew on it.
I honestly, I didn't plan on talking about the first one as much as we did, but I mean, we just had so much to say, and it's just so badass, and we love it so much. And I do love the second one. I really, really do. It has so many great moments, but oh, the other thing we didn't talk about is, the whole framing Batman part. That was the one thing I did like about the movie when they try to
I did
frame
like
him.
it. Yeah, I did like it. I mean, how they knew the controls to the Batmobile, I have no idea. Where did he get them schematics from?
Right. Well, remember they go to try to mess with it.
Yeah.
And they take it apart and they tamper with it, and then they bring it back to him, and that's how he's controlling it. Like they go take the shields apart. Remember?
Well, he gets blueprints though. He's like, I'm going to make it into a ticking time bomb, and I'm thinking, where have you got these blueprints from? Who's done this for
Oh,
you?
you're right. He does. Yeah, he does get him at the beginning. I don't know. Maybe Max Schreck got him. Max Schreck and Bruce have some dealings, because remember the beginning, Bruce is like, I'm going to fight you on this.
That's true, but why are you dressed up like Batman?
Yeah. What's so funny is that still people getting close to Batman at some point, I feel like if you had a mask on, I'd be like, ezmaniac?
Yeah, exactly. Especially
like,
with his mustache and beard.
Yeah. Yeah, it may be the same thing.
Save Batman Forever for the next time because I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll do Batman Forever and Batman and Robin for the next Saturday. We're doing it, and we'll do it this Saturday if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, this was a
6 is
blast.
good.
Thank you so much for joining me again. And we were supposed to do this a couple days
All right.
ago, and that was my fault. I got a little backed up on stuff. So ezmaniac was being such a nice guy for rescheduling for me. So I appreciate you, bro.